Hi, and welcome to this yoga practice for beginners. So yoga is really great at strengthening and lengthening our muscles. So it helps keep us fit and healthy. It also complements other forms of exercise really well. But what I find it most useful for is really de-stressing and calming the mind. So it really doesn't matter what you look like on the mat. It's just about the feeling that you get when you're doing your yoga practice. So let's just relax and take a deep breath in through the nose and release through the mouth. And we'll get started. So we're coming onto our hands and knees to begin with. Just spreading out all 10 of your fingers, making sure your shoulders are over the wrists and that your hips are over the knees. We're going to come into what we call cat-cows. So the first move that we do, we inhale deeply through our nose. So breath is really important throughout our yoga practice. And as we inhale, we lift our tailbone and the crown of our head to the ceiling. We look up, arching the spine. And exhale through the nose, really rounding the spine. So letting your head drop and your tailbone drop, pushing up into your mid-back. Inhaling, we lift the head and the tailbone, really arching the spine. And exhale, dropping the head, dropping the tailbone. Keeping your elbows quite soft if you found that you lock them out a little bit. Inhale, lifting our head, tailbone, looking up, and exhale to drop. 2 more of these. Inhale. You might even want to close your eyes and just kind of feel how it feels in the spine to move like this. So this is really great for the mobility of our spine, especially if we've been sitting down a lot today, just to kind of get everything moving. And it's really slow movements in time with your breath if you can. And then we'll find a neutral spine. From here, we're going to tuck our toes under and just hover our knees an inch off the mat. So you should feel your core starting to engage here. If you don't, you can physically engage it. So kind of switching your core on, almost like you're tensing your stomach, but not straining. And then we'll start to lift our hips all the way up to the sky. So we're finding our downward facing dog here. And basically down dog is an upside down V shape. So you can keep quite a bend in the knees to begin with. You're on the balls of your feet and really pressing down into your hands. Looking forward, just checking your all 10 fingers are spread. Then you can let your head drop down. Look between your legs just to help elongate your spine. So the hips are still really drawing up to the ceiling. And if you found that your shoulders have kind of come up to your ears, just draw them gently away from the ears to elongate your neck. And then if you have your knees bent, maybe see if you can just straighten them a tiny tad, just kind of getting into those hamstrings, stretching out the hamstrings. And maybe you want to walk one foot out at a time. So really bending into one knee, letting the other hamstring and calf stretch. And then swapping around, so bending into the other knee and drawing down through the heel of the opposite foot. So if we're bending our left knee, the right heel draws down, and then bending the right knee, and the left heel draws down. And final thing just to think about here is it's as if you're drawing your chest towards your thighs. So that will just help create a bit of length in the spine here. Then let's look to the top of our mat or towards our hands and just start to tiptoe your feet all the way until they come about between the hands. And making sure your feet are hip width distance apart. Let everything hang down. So this is our standing forward fold. And you can again have a slight bend in the knees here, especially if you have tight hamstrings. Let your head be really heavy, maybe nodding it or shaking it. Just feeling that lovely stretch through the backs of the legs, letting your back release and the back of your neck release. Planting into the feet, we're going to slowly roll all the way up vertebra by vertebra So your head is the final thing that lifts up. Again, keeping that micro bend in the knees for now. And when we get to the top, we'll just do a couple of shoulder shrugs. And we'll get ready for our sun salutation. So this is basically how we kind of warm the body up and strengthen the body for our deeper postures. So we'll get ready to lift our hands up, just planting down into your feet. Let's inhale, lift the hands up and overhead. Looking between the hands, really reaching up to the ceiling. Exhale, hands come into prayer like this at the top, and you can just draw the prayer down through, or you can just let your hands slowly drop, up to you. As we drop, we hinge at the hips, so we're keeping our spine flat for as long as we can, and then we slowly drop everything down into our forward fold. Inhale, we look up and fingertips come to shins, so we have a flat back here. Exhale, bending the knees deeply, we plant our hands down and we step back to our high plank. Just taking a moment in high plank. So in our yogi plank, we push up into the space between our shoulder blades. So nice strong arms, again making sure all 10 fingers are spread and pushing up into the space between the shoulder blades. Keeping the breath really nice and strong. If this is too strong for you, just drop the knees down. And then we'll all drop our knees together. Hugging your elbows into your sides, we're going to bend the elbows and lower all the way to the mat or the ground. Coming onto your forehead. Untucking the toes at the back. Just making sure your hands are under your shoulders. We'll start to lift our head off the mat. Looking up, lifting your chest up and off the mat. Switching on your lower back muscles here. So this is our baby cobra. Pointing your toes to the back of the room. Any lower back issues, you might need to bring your feet a little wider just to give your back a bit of room. And then exhale slowly, bringing the forehead back down to the mat. Pushing into your hands, draw your hips all the way back towards your heels to find your child's pose. Don't worry if your hips don't touch the heels, they might be up a little bit from the heels, that's totally fine. And then we can slowly draw our forehead towards the ground, it doesn't have to touch. So we can just be hovering here, or if it does touch the ground, you can let the head be nice and heavy. Keeping the breath going. So really nice audible inhales and exhales. From our child's pose, we tuck our toes and we start to lift the hips all the way up to find our downward facing dog again. So you might need to walk your toes in just an inch or two to have a slightly shorter stance for your downward facing dog. Again, keeping a bend in the knees, drawing the hips up to the ceiling. And if you found your head has sort of lifted, start to draw the chest back towards the thighs, pressing into the hands. And then coming high up onto tiptoes, looking to the front of the mat. Let's step one foot and then the other. We come to a flat back with fingertips on our shins, just gazing in front of us. And then we exhale, forward fold, again keeping that little bend in the knees. Inhale, sweeping the hands all the way up, overhead, reaching for the sky. And exhale, they come to prayer, or they can just slowly come and relax down by your sides. So that's our sun salutation A. We should be feeling a little bit more warm now. So we're going to come into our warrior two, which I'm sure you've heard of before. So let's step our left foot back in a big step. Whoop, don't worry if you wobble around a little bit. Just checking your alignment. So your left foot should be planted down 90 degrees and your right foot should be tracking forwards. And your feet should be on one line together. So the heel of your right foot should hit about the middle of your back foot if you're tracking it. Don't worry too much about this. And we're going to bring our arms out parallel. So relax the shoulders down and really draw your fingers out to either side. So hands are really active. And then we're going to start to bend into our front knee. Just make sure your knee isn't going over the toes. If it is, just walk the toes forwards a little bit. And make sure the knee isn't coming in or going out. So it should be tracking over those middle toes. Keeping the shoulders down and the hands really active. So we're opening up the hips here. So this is a really lovely hip opener. You can look over the front fingers. Keep the breath moving. And then slowly, we can just start to straighten the front leg. Let the arms relax down and we'll take a step back to the front of the mat. Lovely. Let's just do that on the other side. So big step back with our right foot. Again, just checking your alignment a bit. So it sounds like there's lots of things to think about, which there are, but once you sort of get it, it will come quite naturally, I think. So front foot tracking forwards, back foot 90 degrees, arms come out, really strong arms, but try not to hunch the shoulders up, so let those relax down. And we start to bend into the left knee this time. Again, making sure our hips are opening up. So this is great for building strength in the thighs here. Looking at the front knee, just making sure it's tracking over those middle toes. Keeping really nice and strong in the warrior. Seeing if you can make your breath audible, so deep breaths in and out through the nose. Then let's straighten that front leg. Relax the hands down and we'll step to the front of our mat again. We'll just do one more beginning part of the sun salutation and then we'll come into child's pose to finish. So let's inhale, sweep our hands up above us, look between the hands and exhale, starting to forward fold, so hinging at the hips, keeping the back flat for as long as you can and then relaxing everything down. So letting the head be really heavy, looking between the legs. On an inhale, look up in front of you, coming to a flat back, your fingertips come to your shins, drawing your shoulders back and down. And then exhale, bending into your knees, planting the hands, and we step back to our high plank. Making sure everything is where it should be, fingers are spread, feet are hip width distance, pushing up into that space between the shoulder blades. And then dropping the knees, hugging the elbows really into your sides, so you should feel them hugging your ribs here. We lower down onto the mat, untucking the toes. Just making sure our hands are under our shoulders, pointing the toes to the back of the room. Let's inhale, lift our head and our chest up, switching on those lower back muscles. So a way to kind of make sure that our back muscles are switched on in our baby cobra, where we are here, is just to start to hover our hands a little bit off the mat. So you should hopefully feel that in your lower back muscles. Almost like you're tucking your tailbone here, and that can help switch those on too. Then let's plant the hands back down on the floor and start to draw our hips all the way back to a child's pose. So in child's pose, just making sure your knees are hip width distance apart, drawing the hips back towards the heels. If this is at all painful, you can always pop a cushion on top of your heels just to support you a little bit more. And our forehead comes towards the ground. Again, if your forehead doesn't reach, you can always use props. So maybe putting a book underneath your forehead, that can be really nice. It's just quite nice to have some contact with that space between your eyebrows, which we often sort of furrow and tense up. So make sure you're relaxing that space between the eyebrows and relaxing your jaw. We'll take 3 last breaths in through our nose, and this time releasing through the mouth. Breathing deeply through the nose, releasing through the mouth. Final inhale. And really release. And either just staying here for a few more breaths if you want to, or otherwise we've come to the end of our practice today. So thank you so much for joining. If you've got any questions at all, I'm really happy to answer. So just drop me an email or comment below. And otherwise, hope you have a good rest of your day.